All right, very good. Well, welcome everyone to this webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the new device and product types on TagoIO. We're going to mainly learn the differences between the different databases that we have available on TagoIO and share some concepts and tips to guide all of you onto building an high performance IoT application. So basically learn how to manage mutable buckets for optimized data sets that needs to be added, or how to operate with the immutable buckets that are ideal for the sensors data. So today I am here with Victor. I would like to ask everyone, please feel free to post any questions onto the Q&A. We can go through them on the end of the session. And please feel free to present yourselves on the chat. And as per now, I'm gonna pass it over to Victor. Please, I think you're good to go.
Hello, everyone. So I am Victor. I work at TagoIO with developing applications. And let's talk a little about how the new buckets works and what is the migration guidelines if you are using the legacy buckets today and you want to move to the new buckets as quick as possible. And also some tips and best practice that you can use that will help you use these new buckets in the best way possible. So on TagoIO now we have two kind of buckets, the device data optimized and the managed data optimized. And they are called immutable and mutable. And the difference between them is that the immutable is today very sensor focused in a way that it can store data for a long period of time and have very faster response up to 1 billion registers per bucket. And at the bottom here, you can see some common use case for this kind of bucket. That is, of course, holding sensor information like temperature, humidity, location, etc. But it is also a very important kind of bucket if you want to hold on logs or user decisions and any other permanent register, like getting average temperature in a day, and you want to keep this information stored for, let's say, 2 years, 4 years. So immutable device is exactly what the kind of bucket that you want to use in such cases. And also very good to know that the immutable device is the only kind of device and bucket, of course, that can hold data retention. So data retention is not available for the mutable, only for immutable. So if you want some easy way to keep cleaning your data, immutable is also the way to go here. Then we have the mutable device, that is the managed data optimizer. So mutable is does have some limitations, but different from the immutable, where you cannot delete, you cannot edit the data that you have stored. The managed data optimizer allows you to do that. But it can only hold up to 50,000 registers by bucket. And the data can only be deleted using analysis, API, or dashboard. That means you cannot, you don't have data rotation here. Any deletion of the data must be done by you using one of the several ways that you can manage data in Tago. Analysis, of course, is the most common one, API as well. And on the bottom here, we do have some examples, use cases for this kind of bucket. So you want to use mutable when you are handling information that comes from a dashboard, for example, when you register an organization, or you are using geofences, because geofences need to be deleted and edited. And the only way you can do this sort of action is using the mutable buckets, image marker as well, different kind of widget. And of course, if you are integrating with third-party softwares, so let's say you have users being ported from a different integration, or you just managing some beacons for localization features. So you want to use managed data so you can delete this information very quickly or edit them if they already exist. And of course, output of analytics is a very common use case as well. And we have a situation where we need to store last location of device in a specific uh, device for we to use on a map, for example, map widget. So managed data is what exactly the bucket you want to use. So you can continue to deleting these last locations, updating the last location of the device, and the immutable bucket you cannot do that. And for last, you have the legacy buckets that is still available at Tago, and you still can use to create new devices. But keep in mind, the legacy buckets will be deprecated permanently by the next quarter of the year. Uh, we will not be releasing any new feature for the legacy buckets, and we have some cool features coming. For example, the immutable devices will have a backup system that you can schedule backups for your buckets and store these backups on your files at TagoIO. So this will only be available for mutable and mutable buckets, and will not be available for the new legacy for the old legacy buckets. So we do recommend everyone to start updating their application so you can stop using these legacies. Next, here we have the migration guidelines. So if you currently have the legacy buckets in your account and you want to migrate to the new ones, what exactly changed? What do you need to change in your application? So the first thing is more related to how you send the data and store your data. We have some renaming of keys in the register. So origin is now called device, and of course is related to your device ID. And Siri is now called group, and you need to make sure you have your analysis updated with these new parameters, because the new buckets, the mutable and mutable one, will not have Siri and will not have RE. But the old ones, the legacy buckets, those have support for device and groups. So if you go right now and get any register for your legacy bucket, you will see that you will receive both the Siri and the group, and the origin and the device. So you have all the 4 parameters available. And this is done that way so you can start migrating your analysis first, and then you migrate your devices. Another change is that we don't have any more data rotation filter by variable. So previously you would see in your bucket under the variables tab some switches to turn on data rotation for a specific variable or not. So this feature is not available anymore. And the only way you can have data rotation now is using the immutable device. And you just don't have this feature. So the data rotation will delete all the data from the rotation period with no filter at all. Previously, you would also be able to delete data at any period of time. So these had been changed for both mutable and immutable device. So now you have to specify start date and end date to get a 1 month interval at maximum, of course. That means if you have only 1 year of data there or 1 year data old, and if you do not specify the start date and the end date for to get this old data, the data will not be just removed when you call this operation in your analysis. So this is something good to keep in mind. And also deleting data through API analysis, anything is only available for mutable. For immutable, you need to use the data retention. But we are working in a very cool feature that should come soon, where you can delete all the data for an immutable device in a day. So let's say I want to delete all the data for yesterday. This is something we are working to give you this possibility. So at least you have some way to manage to erase the data on your device without need to erase everything. Now I want to talk about some tips and best practices that I recommend to use. And from here, we will also doing some live presentation on my account here, so you can see how this works. So for the first tip, I would say use the blueprint dashboard to combine the mutable plus the immutable bucket. So let's imagine this scenario. You need to set data retention on a sensor for 1 month, but you also need to store alert logs for the same device, but in 2 years. So you have here a scenario actually that you have 2 immutable devices. And of course, you could have a scenario where you also have a mutable device, but the logic is the same. You have 2 immutable devices here because you need different data retention periods for both informations, and you need to store one of the information for a very long time. So the solution here for this use case would be to create the immutable sensor device with one amount of data retention. Actually, just create the 2 devices, different data retentions, added a tag key with the same tag value on both devices, and use the blueprint. And I want to show you how this works. Let me go to my account here. So let's say I have here, let me create one device here. So I have an immutable device. So let's say this is my real sensor. And I will create the device. And then I will create another device. And by the way, we have a new kind of connector here that I recommend to you, that it is a storage device. It's actually just make your device list more easy to identify kind of storage devices. So don't see why not to use. In this case, I would say EmuTable as well. And this is my log for sensor. And of course, I need to set the data retention here to 2 years. And okay. Now I have the 2 sensors, and I need to relate them some way for my blueprint dashboard to be able to get both devices. So let me open the device here, get the real sensor, and I'll go to my tags. So I can relate them by any kind of ID. So one thing that I would quickly do here is just use the ID of the real sensor device. So let's say device ID here, and use the same ID. So it's very simple for me. Save it. Now I go to the log, and I will enter the same tag. with the same value here. And for the blueprint to work as well, I need to have a different tag here just to identify both type of devices. So this I'll call type logs, and this one I'll call type device. Okay, this is just random tags. What you need to get from here is that we are using the same value for both my devices here. And if I have a different device, I would have the same value for the device and the log of the device. And just a type here, so you can have two different blueprint device in the blueprint dashboard. So I'll be creating my blueprint dashboard. Layout sensor plus logs. Next step. So I'm creating now the blueprint device here. First one would be real device, type device. Then my log device, type log. Correct? Yeah, correct. And now we need to use these filter conditions, so we'll never get the log device, a wrong log device for the real device. So we can apply filter conditions in this blueprint device, create the rule here, and we'll say that we will only get options in the log device where the options available match the device ID tag. So match tag is a resource at Table that creates a kind of a filter where the value of a tag must match the same value of a different device or a different kind of resource, because this also works for users in the access rules, etc. But in this case, the value of a tag of one device need to match the same value for that tag in the other device. So since we are using the same value on both our log device and the real device, for the tag key device ID, this filter will work, and you will see very soon. So now I have the real sensor and the log for real sensor here. So what would happen if I delete one number here in the tag value? So now if I come back and try to select my real sensor, I don't have any option here for the log device. So the match tag will only allow the device to show up if the values are the same. And we can have more sensors here. Let me get more few ones like this one. We can have the same. Here. Yeah, so now I have the circuitry, and there is no log device, and the real sensor automatically pops up the log for real sensor. And if of course, if I would want to have a log for the truck here, I would just do the same thing, but in this case, I will have unique ID just for the truck. And I can copy the ID of the device, or you can have a different method. So tags are very customizable for you to use the way you prefer. And I can do just a dynamic table here to exemplify that we can now have the log. So if I want to get data from the log, I would select the log device for the blueprint. And if I want to access data from the real device, I select the real device blueprint. So this is a quick tip for you to handle different type of buckets. And for that single device, or there's a lot of different scenarios where you can apply this. And so continuing our slideshow, we have a second tip here that is using the configuration parameters for dynamic last value information. So configuration parameter is one thing that I don't see much people using yet, but the device list widget can take a very good, can use it in a very good way by creating a summary of devices. And the configuration parameter is the best way you can show up less values in these summaries. But you can also use in very different ways in your actions, in your analysis, in a way to create alerts and check if your alert is sent or not. So we have here a scenario where we need to show a summary with the last battery and last temperature for each device. And the solution, of course, is to create your analysis to collect this information and store in the device configuration parameter. And of course, use your widget device list to show up this information. So going back to my account here, I already have the summary blueprint dashboard. And of course, don't need to be a blueprint dashboard, but I usually like to work with the blueprints. And I have here a device list. And if you don't know what device list is, so it's this widget here. Let me edit so we can see the configurations. So when you first open, you see this device list filter. So this is the tags you want to search show up in your list for the devices you want to show up in your list, of course. So that we have type and sensor. So you can see here we have this variable type and sensor in this device. So this device will show up in the list. And we can also have some new columns here, and we just choose what we want to show for each device. So we can show name, ID, connector. We can show a tag. So tag is also very good resources if we want to update less value, but I do think it should be harder. Configuration parameter usually works best. So we have the configuration parameter here, and we can count it battery as well. Just edit the column header. We have a configuration parameter, a battery. We can set up color conditions, etc. And now I can save. So I have here the list, but of course we don't have neither temperature and battery showing up because we don't have these configuration parameters in our devices. So I have here an analysis device list. And what this analysis do, how can I expand this? Well, I don't think so. Okay, so I have an analysis here, and you, of course, you need to get the account token and put in the environment variable that's structured here in the header. This will be available for the snippets. I've just added it after the meeting here, after the webinar here. But basically saying this will go through all your devices. So I have here the list. And here is the filter, so type sensor. That is exactly what I have for my device here. So you get all your lists, amount of 100. Of course, you can increase this if you have more devices, let's say. And it also will create a queue because the queues are very important. TagoIO has a threshold, not TagoIO itself, but just how internet works. If you send a lot of requests in a very low period of time, is very expected for you start to have throughput issues like your your request will be denied or will not reach us or will not be able to respond to you because you are just sending too much requests and we just can handle how much that much requests or you cannot send that much of requests from your local IP. So to not face this throughput limit, I recommend to use queues. So this queue here is just creating a queue, is a function that will be called for anything that you add to the queue. And it run 5 at each time. And this is the function that will go device by device here. And in this function, we just get the data for the device, get the device, and update the device parameters. So it's all commented. I expect you to be easy for you to do changes here. Just change the variable name for the variables you want, or edit your parameters from here. And of course, go to the bottom here and also edit the key and value for your filter. And if I press run right now, let's see what happens. Okay, so now we have the last value for temperature in each device. I don't think I have battery information for this device here. So just temperature. And you can set this analysis to run in a specific period of time, or you can just set to run in a specific day. So I select here the action of type schedule, run analysis, selected my analysis. And now I can just let this analysis to run each minute or each hour. It depends on your limits, how often you want this information to be available with less information, of course. Or you can just update your configuration parameters each time a new data is added to your device. But of course, this is very heavy on your limits. So take some care when you update things with real data coming in. I believe that's all. Thiago, do you have anything from here?
Thank you, Victor. Thanks for sharing this valuable information. It's great to be understanding a little bit more every day about new releases, especially that new device and bucket types can highly improve the applications when they are managed well. As for now, we don't have any questions on the Q&A, so I'm gonna give it a couple of seconds. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. I would like to mention as well, in the meantime, that this webinar is being recorded, so no worries, everyone. If you need to recap any of the topics mentioned today, we're gonna be making this webinar available on our website as soon as possible. All right, Victor, looks like we are good. Thank you for the great presentation. Again, thanks everyone for joining. To be in tune with upcoming webinars, please access TagoIO/videos. And if you need any help from our support doing your migration, or you have any device or bucket related or any other question whatsoever, please feel free to contact us through the community support, documentation, and tickets. And thank you everyone for joining. Have a great week.